With the first pick in the 2019 NBA Draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson from Duke University.
Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for the support in the last video. Watching the draft the other night was super entertaining. It was full of surprises. There were a lot of guys like Bull and Nasir Little that, in my mind, fell way too far for their talent levels. And there were some guys like Cameron Johnson that just went really early, and it kind of surprised me. In this video, I'm going to be going over a few of the teams that I thought came out as real winners that night, and a few of the teams that didn't fare as well. First up in the winners category is the Atlanta Hawks. Going into draft night, they were already in an excellent position with the 8th, 10th, and 17th picks. They then packaged the 8th and 17th picks, plus an additional future first-round pick, so they could move up to 4 in this year's draft and take the player they wanted all along, in DeAndre Hunter. Alongside Hunter, the Hawks retained their 10th pick, which they used on Cam Reddish. Both of these players are considered top 5 small forwards in this year's draft and can play shooting guard and power forward if needed. Both players are versatile scorers, strong two-way players, proven winners, playmakers, and so much more. The Hawks have done a terrific job rebuilding and have earned 2 amazing players that hold long-term futures in a starting 5 with Trae Young, John Collins, Kevin Huerter, all of whom have been drafted by the Hawks in the past couple of years. I'm excited to see them rebuild, and I think they have one of the best young cores in the NBA. On the other end of the spectrum, we have our first loser, the Phoenix Suns. Personally, I was really excited for the Suns rebuild, and I thought they were heading in the right direction. The Suns going into draft night were in a terrific position to get the point guard they so desperately needed. It was a lock that either Darius Garland or Kobe White would fall to the Suns at 6, and they would finally have a talented guard to pair with Devin Booker. The Suns decided to trade back to 11th in this year's draft and add Dario Saric to their roster. Personally, I had no problem with this as long as they took a point guard such as Alexander Walker from Virginia Tech, who was still available at the 11th spot. Instead, the Suns decided to draft Cameron Johnson, who was projected to be a fringe first-round player, and ended up being a mid-lottery pick by the Suns. Reaching across an entire round is terrible by the Suns, and it shows why the rebuild is taking so long. Any competent GM would have traded farther back and picked up assets to pair with Johnson. The Suns lost out on filling the point guard spot and traded away their only guard in TJ Warren prior to the draft. These moves make them the biggest loser in the 2019 NBA draft. Drafting Zion alone made the Pelicans a winner in this year's draft. I love how David Griffin wasn't content with just adding Zion and made incredible moves to put together a solid young core around him. He traded back from 4 to acquire additional first-round picks, which he used on Jackson Hayes, an incredible athlete who can start at center next year, and Alexander Walker, a dynamic point guard who will offer playmaking off the bench when Lonzo and Holiday are off the court. When you look at the Pelicans roster on paper, they are a scary team that will be competing for championships in just a few years' time. Losing Anthony Davis might end up being a blessing in disguise for the Pelicans as they look towards a bright future. The Hornets are historically the worst team in NBA history at drafting players. The worst instance of this is when they turned down 4 first-round picks to draft Frank Kaminsky. Year after year, they mess up their picks, and this year was no different. Their only job was to draft players that could score on their own and help take the pressure off of Kemba Walker if he decides to stay this summer. Instead, they left multiple players that fit this description on the board and reached by taking PJ Washington, who was projected to go in the low 20s, not a lottery pick. Washington is a carbon copy of Miles Bridges, who was already on the Hornets roster and putting up subpar numbers. A couple years from now, they will look back at all the successful players drafted after 12 and wonder how they managed to screw this up again. The final winner of this year's draft is the Portland Trail Blazers. They had a terrific season last year, making the conference finals out of the loaded Western Conference. Lillard and McCollum established themselves as the best backcourt duo behind Curry and Clay in the NBA. The only thing the Trailblazers team needs to put them over the edge is a scoring wing. Nasir Little somehow fell all the way to the Trailblazers, and they were more than happy to draft him at the 25th spot. Little is an ideal fit in Portland, regardless if he starts or not. Having an additional threat at the three-point line could put this team over the top, and the Blazers could claim the throne as the Rockets and the Warriors fall apart in the Western Conference. Similar to the Trailblazers, the Wizards also only had 1 pick in this year's draft. However, unlike the Trailblazers, they managed to screw up their pick very, very poorly. The Wizards drafted Rui Hachimura at 9. Nothing against Rui Hachimura as a person. I wish him well, and I think it's dope to finally have a player from Japan in the NBA. Hachimura isn't an established scorer and can't help Beal and Wall score from the wing or in the paint. Available at the 9th pick, the Wizards could have gotten players like Cameron Reddish, Sekou Doumbouya, Nasir Little, among others that could fulfill the scoring need for the team. It astounds me that the Wizards could have the same problem for multiple years and not be able to solve it. I don't think this team will ever be a contender in the East until they solve this problem, and unfortunately, Hachimura just isn't the answer.
With the 3rd pick in the 2019 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select R.J. Barrett from Toronto and Duke University.
That's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want me to make a specific video covering your favorite NBA team or your favorite NBA player, let me know in the comments. Peace.